What an honor, what a great day to celebrate innovation and connecting these two ecosystems. I appreciate that introduction. I certainly can't take too much credit. This was more than anything a collaboration. Seeing the incredible work that Matt Hagman and the Knight Foundation were doing to help transform Miami into a hub of technology for the Americas, and realizing in conversation with Matt that connecting the budding entrepreneurship efforts here with the well-established and amazing innovations happening in Israel could lead to relationships, could lead to hopefully collaboration, and the rest was history. Nowhere in that process could we, Matt or I, have imagined that we would have taken such dynamic individuals who would have used this opportunity as a catalyst to build these relationships. That takes vision, and that takes real confidence, and to see our friend Leandro Finol and the relationship he has built with Tel Aviv University could not be more gratifying. So very, very happy about that. We heard in the last session in ideation about brilliant ideas and products. Now we're going to talk about how do you bring these ideas into reality? How do you properly launch your product or service? If you ask an Israeli entrepreneur, they'll likely attribute part of their success in launching their products and their solutions to having the chutzpah to try something new. Whether you call it chutzpah or whether you call it audacious curiosity and confidence, there is something here worthy of examination and further study. The next four entrepreneurs today have launched a portable cancer screening solution, affordable micro radar system, a social video platform, and a new concrete product that improves biodiversity. Our first entrepreneur is Ariel Beery. Ariel is the CEO of MobileODT, a medical device company based in Israel, committed to transforming the discovery of cancers. Ariel is dedicated to making medical care available to the billions who have access to mobile phones, but not to physicians. Ariel, the floor is yours.
Hi, good morning, everybody. So I'll tell you a little bit about what we do, and then I'll tell you a lot more about how we launched, because that's the purpose of this panel, and that's what I'm interested in helping entrepreneurs in this audience or around the world think about how to launch a product once they have an idea and they want to see it to fruition. A little background on myself. Before I founded this company in 2005, I founded a franchise network of social venture accelerators, so programs that help entrepreneurs launch their businesses. Now in 15 cities around the world. We've helped launched a little over 900 ventures as of this month, and it's growing. Most of those are social businesses that deal with solving social problems with business solutions. A lot of them are also businesses in low-resource areas or for underserved populations, such as we have the first accelerator for people with disabilities, for example, which is a very exciting field. But this company is actually a company I started while I was still at that previous organization because my childhood friend, a co-founder, came to me with an idea, and I absolutely fell in love with it. See, he was in his lab one day. He's a biomedical engineer, a PhD in biomedical optics, and he was in his lab one day and he's working on this big piece of machinery, this $75,000 piece of machinery. And he was texting me on his phone, and he was looking at the machinery, and he was looking at his phone. He was looking at the machine, looking at his phone. He was like, oh my God, I can do 80% of what the $75,000 piece of equipment does on my $600 phone. And so he picked up the phone and called me, and we met for coffee, and we started talking about this unbelievable opportunity that's afforded by that powerful supercomputer you have in your pockets to radically transform healthcare. And the way that we decided to go about it is to do that in what's called the lean startup model, that I'm sure many of you have heard of. That is to start something small, to build it, to iterate it, to grow it, to get to the customer fast. And it's instead of a regular medical device strategy, which starts off with tens of millions of dollars of research and trials, and get to the customer fast, raise a little money, get to the customer and see. And that's what we're going to talk about today. So a little bit of us in terms of our vision. So our vision is that for every health provider, everywhere, those providers that serve those people that are outside of cities and rural areas in the United States as well as in Africa, India, Latin America, that every one of them will be able to provide an examination at the same level of expertise as an expert physician. And that's because you have 5 billion people around the world who have access to phones, but not to a physician. That means that what you and I do once a year, more or less, when we go to a doctor, we ask the doctor why something hurts, and then we ask them to call upon their expertise to tell us what we should do. And generally, they'll send us to another doctor. But for 5 billion people around the world, the majority of humanity, they can do banking on their phones, they can send information about where they are, crop yields, they can conduct their business, but they can't get to that expert. And so we want to bring that expertise to them through powerful medical devices that are built on the back of the mobile phone. And we started by focusing on building what's called the Enhanced Visual Assessment System, which is specifically for cervical cancer. Cervical cancer is the leading cause of death for women in remote and rural areas, even here in the United States. In the United States, and that's unfortunate because cervical cancer is the easiest disease to stop. The easiest. You have a 5-year window from when a virus called HPV infects the woman to stop it on its tracks on the spot for less than $28. So why in America are 4,000 women dying of a disease, 12,000 women developing the disease, around the world 260,000 women dying of a disease that can be stopped on the spot for less than $28? Because there are no experts. And that's where the Enhanced Visual Assessment System comes in. And its alternative is this big thing. It's about as tall as I am, it weighs about as much as me, and it costs 10 times that thing that I'm carrying around on my strap here. And most importantly, it relies on the expert, which there aren't. And so what we do is we not make something smaller, cheaper, more portable, we also bring the expertise to the person. And to build it, we went through these phases. So in a lean startup, and I apologize for the graphic nature of the third image. In a lean startup, what you do is the first thing you do is you use the cheapest, most off-the-shelf technologies to create what's called an MVP, a minimum viable product, to test whether or not something can work. And so that thing you see on the left, that was our first concept. And I now see that I misspelled proof concept, so I'm sorry about that. That is Thorlab optics together with 3D printed parts that are on a Nexus 4 phone that was brought into a clinic in Scripps in San Diego to image a cervix and to see whether or not it was even possible. And not only was it possible, it turned out to be equivalent to the video colposcope that the clinician, Dr. Bruce Kahn, bought just a year before for $10,000. And then we said, all right, well, what he told us was it just wasn't comfortable to hold. So the second one was that blue thing that we called Big Blue. So we took that existing phone and we just put it on a handheld battery pack with a flashlight. And we took that out, you'll see on the right, to Haiti. We developed a partnership with an organization called Partners in Health, which is a very large global health organization that has clinics across Haiti. And that doctor, Dr. Eddie Jonas, took me out to a series of 7 clinics that he goes once a month to each one of these clinics, 6 to 7 hours driving, to help the nurse in that clinic screen for cervical cancer. Cervical cancer still kills more women in Haiti than any other disease. He's doing the best he can once a month. But with this, now the nurse is able to screen even when he's not there, and he can see it on his laptop, he can see it on his he has an Android tablet or on his phone. And then we found out that the problem was that that wasn't comfortable enough to use, and it was big and bulky. So we went to this thing on the left, which was handheld, much simpler, much more portable. And then we went again, and we went again, and we went again. And the beauty of today's technology for entrepreneurs that are dealing with things that have a hardware component is that you can build things super fast. This whole process, going from what you saw on the left all the way to what I have around my neck, and I'm not even showing you, this is actually the newer version, which is coming out in a little bit, took us a little less than a year. And a year and 6,000 patients screened across each one of those generations with information and data that was collected in every point of the way, because luckily we're built on a phone, so what we're able to do is not only capture the images, we're also able to capture the data. So we now know not only what the visualization record was, but whether the provider asked for support, whether the provider referred the patient, where they referred it, and we're able to build through that an iterative process that looks at the value that can be provided from our medical device. And we're constantly improving the workflow. We can see, for example, how long they spent on one page, one screen of the app versus another. We can see how many of the physicians just chose to say that something's abnormal versus went deeper into it and took notes. And for a medical device company starting up, that's huge, right? So in building a startup, that interaction, that constant interaction with your users is critical to understand what they value. Because based on what they value, you can build a product that they will use more and reduce the friction that would stop them from using it every day. And that's what gives us the opportunity not only to save lives, but also to build a billion-dollar business. And we tested that again. We tested it on the top. You'll see it's a website that we built for the government of Kenya for their Stop Cervical Cancer in Africa conference that they hosted last summer. That was our big beginning in terms of our work with the government. We're able to see in real time how many women were screened and share, in the bottom left here, share the images that they saw with experts that were around the world to help real-time communication and collaboration to help them make better decisions on the spot. And that's the camp that they were doing it in, right outside the convention center in Nairobi. And so the lesson that we learned from that was that by working closely with your customers, you could not only learn what they value, they also bring you into additional learning situations where you not only learn, but you also start making sales. And so as of now, a year later, after we started putting our devices into the field, it's a little over, it's almost 8,000 at this point, because of a week and a half ago, we had a screening camp for 1,600 women. So it's about 8,000 patients worldwide. This week, we're on Tuesday, it was 132 patients so far. Working with some of the leading organizations for cervical cancer and cancer screening in general around the world, and with wonderful strategic partners. And that's the last piece that I want to leave in terms of launch. So one of the big mistakes that I've made in the past, and with this company I seek to avoid, is sometimes you think that you're the only animal in the forest, and you just kind of go out there and do what you got to do. But you're in an entire ecosystem in which there are multiple different players, all of which have different values that they're trying to extract at the same time. So when you're building a business and you're launching that business, to build the right relationships right from the beginning and to grow with the organizations, understanding what they value and how you can work with them to enhance the value that they create, it gives you a much stronger platform on which to stand. So sometimes there's this urge as an entrepreneur to start selling as much as possible. Put it up on the web and just let anyone buy in a heartbeat. But unfortunately, that might not always be the best case. Because sometimes you want to connect with those other big players who value one thing or another and figure out how to attune yourself into their value chain. So we did that with Intellectual Ventures and Global Good, with Genentech, which is a large pharmaceutical company, and BD, a large medical device company, finding how we fit into what value they provide, so that when we roll out in the areas that they have significant influence, we're able to immediately and automatically enhance them, and as a small startup, enhance their value chain, and that gives us significant more access and support and wind in our sales. So just to sum up, as of now, a year after we commercially launched, that test period for us was about 200 systems sold and installed, a little over now 7,000 screenings, and we've benefited tremendously from the team and the global aspect of it. So I guess I said the last thing was the strategic partnerships. I guess the real last thing I should say is it's the team that counts, because in the end, any company you build, doesn't matter in what field, if it's cybersecurity or healthcare or agri-tech or what we're going to hear soon from Aquatech, it's people working together that make a company work. And without getting the right people that you trust and rely on and are brilliant in their own ways and can work together to complement one another, it doesn't matter if you have the best idea in the world, it's just not going to go anywhere. So thank you very much for your time, and I'm happy to answer any questions that you have.